Hey, it's Randy, and I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas. I was going to visit the family this weekend or today, starting today. And as usual, I arrived a little early and I caught myself with some time to kill. And I've had a couple of phone calls that are on my mind in the past few days, and some of the questions that I've been asked about car dealing, and I wanted to address those because they were very good questions. I answered them a little nonchalantly, and I want to emphasize that, I've been doing this for a very long time, and it's actually a second nature to me. So sometimes my answers just may not be totally fulfilling to you because they're just things that, like I said, they just come natural to me. The first one, I had a call from Oklahoma the other day, and it was a gentleman that he actually had his dealer's license, but he had not been buying vehicles, and so he wanted to get some information and said he had found our YouTube channel somewhat informational, but he had a few questions, and I answered his questions, and now I want to put this video up there to answer the questions for a lot of you that I'm sure have the same questions. But anyway, this first question was how I decide on my market values on my cars. What books or what information do I use? Kelley Blue Book, NADA, or whatever. Of course, Manheim Market Report is the best you're going to get because it's the first-hand report from auction companies. And your Kelley Blue Book and your NADAs, they're just extrapolating the information from the auctions anyway. And you can't really go by the book value. We learn after we've been in the car business so long that the book value has very little to do with the actual car value because no cars are the same. They give an average. But let me tell you, this is just like your home. This is an emotional purchase. Unless you're in the business, then it's a financial purchase. And so you want to buy the best car you can buy for the best money. But when you're standing at an auction, keep in mind it's hard for you to really use a book when buying a car because you have other bidders out there. And quite honestly, I've seen some people bid far more on a car than I will give for the car, but that may mean they may have a place for the car. That don't mean the car's worth any more. It means they may have a retail customer already looking for that type of car, and that's why they're going to step up and buy the car. Most of the cars, my business model is, for me, under $1,200 cars as a rule, unless I'm looking for a driver, a nice car for me to drive. That's what I use my license for. And then I don't care what value it is. I know what it is worth to me, and that's all I'm really concerned about when I buy a car like that. But as a rule, my biggest market is Craigslist, and I find that everybody on Craigslist is looking for a first-time car, a beater car, a to-and-from work car, or a student car. I sold one yesterday exactly to my market. It was a man who was buying his son a second car because his son had just trashed his first car. And he said, I wished I had made this investment before I made that investment because he's totaled out a very nice car now. He has SR5 insurance, and we should have started with this price range, which was a $2,000 car, and let him graduate up to a nicer car. And we just did it backwards. And so that was the biggest thing that the man talked about. And it's a common mistake. We all want the best for our children. But when these kids are just learning to drive, they need to keep in mind that start them out on a less expensive car or if you're just looking for transportation, you don't need that luxury that we all associate with automobiles. So that's my business model. I sell a lot of cars to first-time buyers and people just looking for good, dependable cars to get to and from work in the $2,000 range. So Craigslist is my big market. Now, for me, when I go to an auction, what am I looking for? I'm looking for cars that I can buy that are in the $1,000 range, that I can put a little money into it, and that's most of the time $100 or $200, and then I'm up to a $2,000 to $2,500 car that allows me to make a little profit, plus keep a car affordable. So the guy asked me, well, how do you know if it's a good car? Well, quite frankly, there are lawnmowers that bring more money than some of these cars do. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous if a car pulls through a lane under its own power, keep in mind, under its own power, it's not being pushed through the lane, and the tires are decent on the car, the motor's not knocking on the car, there's not a lot of smoke coming from the car, I'm going to bid on the car. And I mostly start bids in the $200 to $300 bid range. Of course, I don't get a lot of them for that. I get a few, believe it or not, $500 or $600. And then I get a lot of cars at $1,000 to $1,200. But they're pulling through the auction lanes under their own power. I asked the driver, did the transmission shift out okay? And of course, they tell me whether it did or whether it didn't. And if it did, I know the car is going to weigh out for $200 to $300, so it's not a complete loss if I've bought a piece of junk. And believe me, when I buy junk, I sell it as junk. And when I buy a decent car, and it's worth spending $100 or a couple of $100 on to make it a nice car, I do that as well. But I don't sell just scrap. Stay away from that. And I advise you to stay away from just selling scrap. It's going to come back on you. So if it is scrap, you bought it as scrap, sell it as scrap. If it can make a nice car, whether you would drive it or whether you feel safe about it. A lot of cars, I don't know until after I get into them whether I feel good about the car, about putting a teenager out in a car or someone that's going to rely on a car to and from work every day. If I can't rely on a car to get me around, I don't sell it. It's just that simple. So I encourage you to test your cars out. A lot of times we don't have time to test them out. It's a luck of the draw. And so, when you're offering a $2,000 car out there, the main thing that you want to do is emphasize to your prospective buyer, look, this car is transportation only. What you see is what you get. It may be a good car. I hope it is a good car. The transmission's pulling fine now. The engine's running fine now. And that's all I can tell you about this car. I hope it works out to be the best car you ever own. But if it don't, keep in mind that it is a $2,000 car. And so, that's just what we want to do. You don't make a big ordeal out of it on that price range car. Of course, when you're going to buy the 6,000 and above cars, you might want to do a little comparison of market research and things of that nature. We're all smart enough to do that. We're all smart enough to use our due diligence when we're going to make a major purchase. But believe me, when you buy a $700, $800 or $1,000 car, a $1,200 car at a dealer auction, and other dealers are bidding on that car too, you're within $40 or $50 to $100 of what that car is worth on the market, because the market is standing in the lanes by you. These are professionals. And so when they're buying, if you're just bidding on the car, how are you going to go wrong? Because you can't be over $50 or $100 wrong on the car, because the man beside you or somewhere in that lane just bid against you. And if he was willing to pay for it at that price and make a profit at it, then what's your fear? That's what is the beauty part of the auction. You know what the car is worth because there's nobody standing there playing any games. You're watching an auctioneer actually hammer down on a car. So you're not going to buy a car completely out of reason. Of course, they've got the ring men out there that and the auctioneer doing his rhetoric. Yeah, you may see a car that looks. The other day, for instance, and I'm just interrupting, and I don't want to get off wing, but I actually had someone shadow me at the auction the other day, and he heard the auctioneer say he had $3,500 on the car. He was asking $3,500 for it. Well, the hammer dropped on the car at $350, not $3,500. It dropped at $350. And so the guy that shadowed me, he says, well, I don't understand. The last I saw $3,500 up there. That's what his asking was. That's not the amount of money he had bid on the car. Final bid on it was $350. So pay attention to these auctions. Watch a few of them. Watch the ring man and watch the auctioneers. The auction that I go to, I don't go to a lot of different auctions. I work primarily one auction. And the reason that I do that is because I know the auctioneers there. I've watched their habits. I know what they do, how they chant, and I am very familiar with the auctioneers. Am I personal friends with them? No. Don't want to be personal friends with them, or I don't have any reason not to, but I'm more concerned about their chant habits. And that tells me what kind of money they got. And I do lean over occasionally to a ring man and say, where's the other bidder? Where's the money? You claim that you got $1,000 on it. Where's the money? Show me the money. And that's what I bid on. Excuse me. So anyway, don't make a big deal out of this. Start out. I don't care where you want to go with this car business, what you want to graduate into, but start out smartly. Start out investing in most of it, and me in particular. I'm in this business as an investment unless I want a personal car to drive. So I start out and I keep my price ranges on cars that I can easily flip. So start out small. Start out, don't get into where you're inventorying over, excuse me again, 3 to 4 cars. This program is not designed for that. It's designed for the maximum of 8 to 10 cars a month to flip. And if you do that and you do it wisely, you're making a lot of money, making more than most people are putting in 70, 80 hours a week to earn. So it's a great business, but start out small. Don't get too smart. Don't get to where you think you know it all. I want to say again, I've been in this business 40 years. And when somebody asks me what a car's worth, I always tell them, you're the only one that knows what that car's worth is because you own it. You paid for it. You got your money in it. What it's worth to anybody else is irrelevant. So a car's worth what the last person that owns it paid for it. And that's an auction car, that's a retail car, it doesn't matter. The money, the last owner knows what anything is worth. Thanks. Have a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. Look forward to seeing you. It looks like we're already off to a great new year. So I look forward to seeing you guys there.